third gen Preludes. That sounds weird to say out loud. It's normal to type it, but saying it it's a little weird. Welcome to Dirt Sweat Gears and a castle of crap-tastic cars. We're here with my 1989 Honda Prelude, and this is going to be another episode of Try Hard. Now, if you're not familiar with the Try Hard series, this is where we deal with all things related to the car stereo for my Honda Prelude. It all started with a picture that I posted on the 3rd Gen Prelude Enthusiast Facebook group with the subwoofers in the trunk pointed towards the back of the car, and everybody hated it. Bro, that's some try-hard stuff. It really doesn't matter which way they face. Ported or sealed enclosures or windows up or down, which will make a bigger difference than which way the box faces. Talking about sound quality on a 1 ohm Class D setup, before that it was orchestrated musicals in theater built for an audience and clearer sound. You are being a try-hard. Stop it. And that is all the motivation I need to do a whole series dedicated to my car stereo because of all of the rage that it garners up. I don't know why, but for some reason people think that it's a bad idea to point the subwoofers to the back of the car. To me, it sounds great. When I'm driving it, it sounds great. I have a good time, but alas, that makes me wrong. So enough of the history lesson, let's get into what we are doing with this car. Now in my last video, we left off with a few things to be desired in this car stereo. And since then, I have discovered a few other adjustments that could be made. The first issue being, I really didn't like how the iPhone mounted in the window using a window suction cup mount. The phone would overheat in the sun, and I just had a bunch of cords dangling, and it just was ugly. It wasn't great. It worked well enough. It worked exactly the way I wanted it to, being that my phone was in control of the stereo, not a head unit, but there was definitely some improvements to be made. So we're going to be working on that today. I got some really great ideas, I got some new hardware, and it's going to be awesome. The second issue that came up was I really wanted to be able to fine-tune the output of the stereo. And the only real way to do that is with an equalizer. And without a head unit, I didn't have an equalizer. I was able to get a pretty good sound out of adjusting the amplifiers. I've since made a few more adjustments to get it even better, but I really want to be able to dial it in because everybody's ears are different. Everybody hears different frequencies better than others, and I wanted to be able to compensate for my shitty hearing loss. So let's get into the car. I've already started to take some things apart because I wanted to wrap my head around this project. Let's go handheld. Coming into the car, you can see I have already disassembled the center console. And like I said, I was just trying to rationalize this project to try to visualize what I'm going to do with everything. You see, I have here a mount that comes with a power source, which is really, really cool. It plugs into this little cigarette lighter 12-volt thing. And I've got a new 12-volt thing because I don't want to give up the cigarette lighter socket. I'm using it. I mean, I'm not smoking, but I just don't want to take out the little original cigarette lighter thing and stick in this 12-volt. I wanted to do something a little bit nicer. So in here, we've got this thing. This is actually a mount that's supposed to go into a CD player. But when you stick it in the CD player, it's not stable. On top of it not being stable at all, I'm also really concerned that it's just going to destroy the CD player. We're not going to do that. I've actually got a much better idea. See, I'm going to use this flat surface, and I'm going to drill some holes, and we're going to use a piece of steel that is about that wide, and we're going to mount it up here. These are the original mounts for the plastic cover that goes over the center console, and if you've owned a Prelude, you would know that that's pretty much the first thing to break on these center console pieces. So I'm going to make use of this hole on either side, and we're going to get a piece of steel. We're going to bend it out and then over, and we're going to use that as the mount to our phone holder. I've also got another 12-volt because I don't want to give up my cigarette lighter, and I've actually found a mounting point, I believe. So You see here, we've got the shift cables. This is actually a huge empty cavity. This piece of plastic is just held on with a couple of panel retainers. I'm thinking I can take this off. I can replace it with a piece of steel, a thin piece of steel, and I can use that, bend it down, and then cut a hole right about here to mount the 12 volt. So this is going to take a little bit of trial and error because this is still kind of a tight space, even though there's a real big cavity there. But it's going to be easy to remove. It's going to be really easy to deal with. And the 12 volt connection is just going to be right here. And for the actual 12 volt connection, we're going to run that back to our stereo compartment to a fuse block. I did not want to use the car's built-in 10 amp fuse because I just don't know exactly how much I'm going to be drawing from here, and I want to play it safe. I'm just going to run my own fuse. And this also solves another problem, because if you were paying attention in my last Try Hard video, you would see that my line output converter does not have a fuse. It goes straight from the distribution block into the line output converter, which is probably a bad thing considering it only needs like 2 amps or 1 amp. So we're going to be able to get a fuse on that if we put this back there. And then we can run another wire up to the front, and we're going to have a little bit of scalability for future projects. I know I had mentioned bending some steel to make a bracket to hang the phone mount. However, I started making some bends and realized I was kind of overcomplicating it. You see, when I was bending the steel, I realized that making that second bend was actually very complicated considering how close it was to the first bend. This is as close as I could get, and it would have hung down really, really far. So I thought, maybe I'm just overcomplicating this by bending it. I decided to get spacers instead. We're going to try to make it work with these little spacers. So I have marked off 2 points, basically the entire length of that center console there, and I'm going to cut here, and then we're going to drill some holes and see if we can get this thing to work with spacers. So now I got the holes very poorly drilled here. You can see one is way off to the top and one is way off to the bottom. Whatever. We're going to test fit this. So this is just a little bit of a pain in the ass to install, but it is possible. One of the things, though, that I need to adjust is, I need to completely re-drill this hole about a ½ inch inward. It's not a big deal. In fact, if this is the only problem, then I'm in good shape because I can just completely cut this old hole out, this one that I've already drilled, and we're going to be okay. This is very promising. I'm very, very close. This piece of metal only cost me $4, so I can always just get another one if it really bothers me. But it is now mounted in. It's actually nice and solid. This side feels a little better than that side. The next thing I want to do is drill holes for this thing. Now, this is going to need to be a little bit more precise of a measurement. I don't think I can get away with just eyeballing this, because if it's off center in any direction, one way or the other, I'm really going to hate myself. So I got to figure this out and spend the time to actually measure things. But This is great progress. I'm really happy with this. So I have an idea. This bar that I just cut holes for is meant to line up to these holes right here. I'm thinking if I trim the plastic right here, 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 and here, this bar will sit flush with the rest of this bracket. I might still need to cut these off, but at the very least, I will have a nice backing piece to support the weight of the phone. If I trim all this off, I can get this all nice and tight together. The only scary part is that there's basically, this is the point of no return. Once I cut this, there's no going back. This mount will be ruined if it doesn't work out. I made it work. So I trimmed off the little corners here, trimmed out the little things on the side, trimmed off the part that goes into the CD player. And now I have, using the existing hardware that came with this thingy, it works. It fits. So this mounts up just perfectly. This is going to mount up to the car. The only problem is that this all looks actually pretty heinous. So we're going to have to do something about this. But for now, I want to get it mocked up. This is really nice. It does bounce a little more than I want. I might be able to do something. Yeah, it's coming from the sides here. The bar that is holding all of it up is not quite as strong as I want it to be, but that said, all things considered, this is really great. I mean, we have a mounting solution for my iPhone that doesn't involve sticking it in the air vent and breaking the air vent or shoving it into the CD player and ruining the CD player. This is a really nice place for it to be when it's not here. I mean, it is a permanent mount, basically, for all intents and purposes anyway. But I'm always going to put my phone here when I'm driving. And if the phone is controlling the head unit, I have all of my controls right here. Another thing you might be thinking is, does it get in the way of the shift knob? And really, it doesn't. If you have the traditional long shifter, what I call the donkey dick, the donkey dick may interfere with this particular setup. But I also might be able to move it back a little bit more if I put a little more work into it. But I don't think I'm going to need to because, yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I can tilt it that way a little bit. I can turn it sideways if I want to watch movies while I drive. You know, my passenger can watch movies, I guess. The next thing we need to do here is get the 12-volt plate that I had cut and painted and got ready to go. We're going to put it in here. We're going to install the 12-volt, and we're not going to wire it just yet, but I want to mock everything up. We've got the phone charger just kind of hanging. It's not tightened down or anything, but I've got the wire coming back to it to run power from our 12-volt that we just installed here. So we have a little 12-volt. We've got the positive and the ground here. And then we've got another out on the 12-volt that supplies power to the phone charger, supplying power to our little equalizer unit here. This is, what is it called? This is Quedalix. That, yeah. Qudelix. That's, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's an equalizer unit, and it has power. This is also a Bluetooth receiver, so I can connect my phone via Bluetooth to this thing, and then it runs out to the 3.5 millimeter out to the speakers. So once I get power to this 12-volt here, I can actually test this whole system out, and we're going to know if it's going to work. So with the front end figured out, the next thing I need to work on is getting power up to the front of the car. I haven't exactly sorted out where I want to put this. One of the solutions I was exploring was running it from here, because we've got a distribution block over here, and this line output converter also needs a fuse, which it currently doesn't have. So I can kind of, solve two problems at once here, and it's neatly hidden away from the rest of the trunk. The only thing is that this is pulling power from the capacitor, which I don't necessarily want to do, but if it is part of the stereo assembly, I suppose it's not that big of a deal. If I'm using the phone to power the stereo or to send signal to the stereo, it's kind of justified. I put the fuse block in the basement down there, and I have everything turned back on. This is all wired up, so, well, mostly wired up. So we should be able to test this right now. Obviously, we're not going to have any subwoofers, but that's not what we're here to test. I need keys to this car, and then all we need to do is touch this wire to that wire, and we can test this whole system. The first thing we're going to test here is, does the phone charge? So I've got that disconnected, but I'm going to turn the car on. Without turning the fan on, it should work just the same. I'm going to put this on the charger. A little bit nervous. See if this works. Oh, pop the fuse. So short answer is no, it didn't work. So I may have screwed this up. Turns out I might have wired this backwards. So I've got it all wired correctly. I took out the 12 volt and matched up the plus and the ground to the correct wires. So we should be good to go. And of course, I broke a panel clip in the process. So I'm really happy about that. Let's turn on the breaker and see if we set the car on fire again. No horrible noises yet. I'm really nervous. Is this going to work? Now, I may have ruined this by wiring it backwards. So that's also a definite possibility. So the good news is I don't think I completely fried the phone charger because, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, it was working. The problem is that this connection is a little janky because I'm using a different wire. The bad news, of course, is that I might have fried this. You see, I can't get it working in anything that I plug it into, even when I plug in another USB to it. So, yeah, I may have ruined it when I wired my 12 volt backwards. Go figure, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah. There's another issue that I have with this thing. It is that this is running basically straight off of battery power. So if I have anything plugged in here, it's going to cause a parasitic loss. So either I wire up a relay to a switched power source, or I use a switched power source directly, which I don't know that I want to do because of the amperage draw on it. I don't know yet because, like I said, amperage draw, I've got like 4 devices, all pulling each pulling 1 amp off of that switch power source. So I don't think I want to do that. But I was thinking about it, and in each of these devices, we've got a switched remote and a constant 12 volt. And really what that means is there's an internal relay in these things that just turns on the relay and feeds power to the device. So I've decided to just put a relay back here. So I wired it all in. I had to do everything 4 times because I'm really bad at wiring apparently. Let's go take a look at it inside the car. Excuse the mess, still a work in progress. But inside the car, we've got everything running, well, I mean, that's still temporary. But we've got everything running off of the switch, which means when this is off, my little remote switch, everything is off, including the 12 volt. So I've got this thing here, which lights up when it gets power. Of course, it doesn't have power right now because the relay is off. But when I energize it, boom. Little light comes on, and we've got sound. But there is a problem here. This cable isn't working. You see, watch what happens when I turn on the power. We've got a little light here that's supposed to turn green. And when I turn the power on, it goes green, and then it goes out. So I think that's because this wire is not the right wire for this charging device. So I'm going to have to find the right wire, which I may have some trouble. I did find a couple that will work, but they're very short, and I don't know if they're going to fit in this car. I suppose I can try it. If not, then I'm going to have to just go buy another cable and potentially wait several more days. But that's okay. We are on the right track here, and I'm really happy with the progress, even though there was definitely some hiccups along the way, and it was all my fault. One last thing I want to test before I want to figure out the power thing is this Kudalix thing. I managed to power it up by pressing this button. Power off. So I powered it off just now. And now we're going to turn it back on. And it sounds like that's on. Let's make sure we're connected to Bluetooth. We are connected. All right. So that's GoPro. Here we go. So this is our device information. Oh, this is cool. I've never used this app before. This is the very first time I'm touching this. Let's turn on some prong just to see if it works. Are we listening to prong? Yeah, we're listening to prong. Oh my god, that's cool. All right, I don't want to get copyright hit, but what I want to do here, I'm going to play around a little bit with the equalizer. Like I said, I've never touched this before, and then I'm going to check back in with you once I've got some things figured out. With everything wired up, I went ahead and put the trunk back together. This is done. The next thing I need to do back here is to just clean it, vacuum it, get it ready for JCCS in a couple of weeks. Inside the car, I've also begun reassembly. You see, I got it to a point, and right now I just want to test it before I put the plastics on, before I mount up the phone. I wanted to just make sure everything works. So let's make sure everything works. So I don't have the bracket put up yet because I'm still waiting for the paint to dry. However, we've got the cable that's all hooked up into the socket. The 12-volt socket adapter I had to replace because obviously I fried the two that I had. And then I had a little bit of trouble with the phone actually getting power. But then I realized it's because I had to adjust the cradle up a little bit so that the charge point would be in the correct spot on the phone. So if I turn the car on, and then I turn the stereo on, we're looking for this little light over here. And we hear the relay click on, the light comes on. We actually heard the click from the Bluetooth connection. There it went bloop, and we are now charging. So this is going to work. The next thing I need to do is just put the mount on once the paint dries. And I can close up all the plastics, and then we can do a proper demo of the stereo. But one last thing before we close this up, I want to make sure that all of this works together because that's really the only thing left to do. So I'm going to play just a little bit of Desecrate just to make sure that it's going to work. And in fact, it does work. This is the beginning of the song, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. Once we get the bracket on, I'm going to do a demo of the Kudalix app. Well, here's the bracket for the iPhone. And, well, is it ugly? Well, kinda. I mean, if you look really close and you find, you know, where I drilled the extra hole, or if you look at it from this angle downward, I mean, you're going to notice things, but really, from a driving position, it looks just fine. I mean, you see the tops of the screws. Big deal. Really. For this level of stability, like I gotta tighten this a little bit. No, that's loosen. Tighten it. But for this level of stability, this is fantastic for a phone mount. And a wireless charger, and it connects via Bluetooth to control the speakers of the car. This is, I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So let's turn this on, get some music going, and play around with this app because this is pretty exciting so far. I've turned that on. Is this going to charge? That's on. This might, yep, there we go. Charging. Yep. We've got music. Rings of Misery from Desecrate. Yep, that's good. we're going to switch over to, let's just let it play. And then once it picks up, we'll start changing the settings. So in the app, we've got, this is our Bluetooth state, sample rate, sample bits, got some device information. This is for making the Bluetooth connection easier. And in the volume area, this is cool because we've got, I want to turn the bass up a little bit. This is cool because we've got not only the volume that is controlled on the side of the phone, but this sets a peak volume. So if, like, for example, you plug it into a different device and it's like turned all the way up, well, you can limit the loudness of this from the app. And this saves its settings regardless of whether or not it has power. So let's go ahead and cut power to this thing and show you what's going on. So we've lost our Bluetooth connection. We have, lost charging, but it's going to save the settings. So when I turn it back on, it's going to come back alive. It's connected, and we should start charging any second now. We are charging, and here we are. We've still got our settings here. So let's get the music playing again. All right, now we're going to go into the app. Okay, so now we're in the app. We've got music going, everything's good, we're happy. Let's flip over to the equalizer. Now, I have it in easy mode here, but you can turn on, you can control each individual frequency range individually if you turn it to hard mode. How do you change it to hard mode? I think that's an option. And then turn it to PEQ. This is hard mode. You can type in each individual frequency range and the decibels and really dial it in if you're even more of a tryhard than me. Since I'm likely to be making adjustments while I'm driving, I put it in easy mode. And you can see here, this is in flat EQ right now. But if I touch that, I can switch it over to my profile, which I've aptly named Tryhard. Loading new preset. And I don't know if you can hear, but there is definitely a difference in the way it sounds. And I'm just going to play with this a little bit while we let the music play so you can hear how it changes. Is this the way the artist intended for it to be heard? Probably not. So even in flat EQ, it's not bad. But when I load my custom profile, I can hear it the way I want to hear it. And so this right here is my reasoning for wanting a graphic EQ. I have a hard time hearing at higher frequency ranges, so as it goes up in the band, I want to punch it up a little bit so that I can hear the highs. I can hear the crisp of a splash cymbal, for example. I want to be able to hear that better, so I punch it up. I can set different profiles for the different types of music I listen to. So if I want to listen to jazz, well, we've got a preset for jazz that I might want to change up later on. If I listen to hip hop, if I want to listen to piano or loud, well, I don't know what loud is, or spoken word, vocal tracks, these are all different presets that I can switch to if I want. And I've got, what, 20 custom ones? That's awesome. So I can really dial this in the way I want so that I can enjoy driving better. Then over here, we've got some other things that I haven't played with very much. auto shutdown, auto, normal, distortion compensation enable. That's cool. And this is just a really great app with a really great device. This thing is Bluetooth, so I can pull it off the charger, put the phone in my pocket, walk around the car or whatever. I can answer a text message if I'm sitting here, just like this. And then when I'm driving, plop it in here, starts charging. I think the only thing I don't like about this is the orientation of the power and the 3.5mm out jack on the device, because the power is coming in from one side and it is going out on the other side. I guess that's good for inline setups, but really what I wanted to be able to do is to clip this and just have it clipped here off to the side so I could still press the buttons if I really needed to. This isn't a big deal. It's just, I don't think I want this here, and I may want to move it later on, because my concern is really my foot is going to hit the wire and make the wire go bad. So I'm not sure what to do about that yet, but it's definitely going to be addressed. This has been an amazing journey with my car stereo. We're out on the road here. You saw in my last week's video that we finished the AC as well. So we are really just cruising around and enjoying the drive. And with the windows up for a change, this is a very welcome change. It has been 15, almost 20 years since I have been able to drive around on a warm day with the air conditioning on and the windows up. So let's listen to some Desecrate. It's the thing that I have permission to listen to on my phone. It's what I have on my phone right now. And let's talk about this car stereo. So the first thing that's on my mind right now is the shifter actually does get a little bit close to the bracket that I mounted my phone to. I could trim down the bracket a little bit. These little teeth are meant to hold a much thicker phone than I have, so I could trim that back a little bit. I could also probably modify the bracket a little bit more to bring the phone back or up a little bit. It also gets in the way of my AC controls, but I think I'm willing to deal with that, considering the AC works. So the iPhone bracket with the charger, it functions perfectly. My phone charges when I put it up to it. The little switch that I have in the dashboard it is getting a little finicky. I might want to replace that switch that turns on this whole system. Sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate, but right now it works. It'll be an easy thing to change out later on. I'd probably just go ahead and do that off camera. The really nice thing about this setup is that it's completely reversible. I didn't cut any holes, I didn't drill any holes, so I can reconfigure this and change it up as my tastes evolve, as my skills evolve, and I probably will. So the bracket that's holding the phone isn't quite as stable as I'd like to be. It's much more stable than the bracket that would hold it to the fence or the bracket that would hold it in the CD player, but it still wiggles around a little bit, and the glare on the phone bothers me. So I'm probably going to get an anti-glare filter on my phone and also eventually get a little bit more of a stable mount. But in the meantime, this is fantastic. This is a huge step up from nothing. This is a huge step up for mounting it on the windshield, because now when my phone gets hot, I can just turn on the air conditioner and point it towards the phone to cool it off. Because I have air conditioning. Did I tell you that? Yeah, I might have mentioned that once or twice. And then for the actual listening experience, I drove this last week all the way up to Lancaster and back. So I made a 130-mile round trip with this car, with not the AC, it was before I finished the AC, but with the stereo going on this very road, and it was the best miles I've ever put on this car. So Try Hard obviously became more than just a music listening project. It became a stereo project, but even more than that, it was basically an interior of the car project. Just livability of this car, just making it a nicer place to be. Because, you know, in previous installments of Try Hard, we swapped in interior parts from another car. We steam cleaned the entire inside of this car and made this a nicer place to be overall. And we also rebuilt the entire trunk. We rewired the whole car. So Try Hard just really became a lot more than I initially thought it was going to be. And it's going to continue. We're going to continue with stereo upgrades. We're going to continue with interior upgrades. This car's story is far from over. At least I hope, because this car's story is going to end with me. It's going to end when I end. But for now, I'm going to enjoy this car for a while. I'm going to work on other cars because, for one, I need a truck. I have 4 trucks, but they're all broken. I need to fix one of them, hopefully 3 of them. And I really do want to eventually sell the Jeep. But before I sell the Jeep, I want to make it a nice car to drive. I'm going to go ahead and turn around here. Oh, 4-wheel steering, it's so good. It's so good. But even though there isn't going to be too much Prelude content for you guys, we are still going to try hard. We've got other projects that we can try hard on. I said hard on. Oh, and before I go, one last comment. For all of you people saying, oh, you're not listening to the music the way the artist intended to listen to it. I happen to know the artists that recorded this music, and I know a lot of other recording artists, and I can tell you what's important to a recording artist. What's important to a recording artist is that you buy their music, you go to their shows, and you buy their merch. That's what they care about. That's what they survive on. Because if you don't do that, then they have to quit music and get a job as a teacher teaching web design. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you think I'm just a try-hard, leave a comment anyway, because I really want to hear from you. So that is it. I'm going to crank up the music and enjoy this drive. Stay hard, my friends.